trailer. Come.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. Caught me by surprise there.
Yeah, no problem. Hello, good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Critique Corner with me, Daniel Parker.
And me, DB Fastbinder.
Thank you all for tuning in tonight. And if you're new to the show, what we always do is we talk about our thing of the week, which is a something from various forms of media that we've been consuming during the week. Then we move on to our weekly box office and onto the topics. And usually I go first with our things of the week. And for my thing of the week, all I can say is get your ass to Mars.
Yeah, hurry up, Elon.
Yeah. So I watched the original Total Recall 1990 version.
You mean the only Total Recall?
Yes, the only Total Recall. With starring Arnold Schwarzenegger and who else? We also had Sharon Stone, Michael Ironside, Ronnie Cox,
the most famous odd-numbered boob in history.
Yes. And it's of course it was directed by Paul Verhoeven, same guy that did RoboCop and Starship Troopers. And what I forgot about was that it's based on a Philip K. Dick short story.
Yeah, was it like we'll remember it at wholesale price or whatever? Or?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, we'll remember it for you wholesale. I think. Yeah,
that sounds right. Yeah, we'll remember it for you wholesale.
Yeah. So, and I'm assuming. By the way, I actually this was the first time I had seen it.
Wow, for once, a classic 80s or 90s movie that I saw before you.
I know. It happens. This was. I think the reason I avoided it was because my parents watched it, and they didn't like it. So I kind of went, okay, well, if they didn't like it, I probably won't like it. But that was not the case. I actually did like this. I think the reason they probably didn't like it was because they don't really get Paul Verhoeven.
Not big RoboCop or Starship Trooper fans,
right? Yeah, because most people will probably know this about Verhoeven. He's most of his movies are very satirical in nature. Not really parody, but definitely commentary on whatever it is that's in that's going on in there. You saw that with RoboCop, with all the like the commercials and everything that was going on with the plot, and definitely with Starship Troopers, with all the the propaganda in there. And
I'm doing my part.
Yes, I'm doing my part. Only good bug is a dead bug. But you definitely get that with this one too, because you had the whole thing with recall, and you can have a new memory implanted, and the whole Mars uprising and everything. But yeah, I mean, it's a good movie. It's definitely very psychological, as well as having a lot of action in it. And yeah, it's I was pleasantly surprised by it. And definitely would recommend anybody watch it if you haven't watched it already. And you can definitely avoid the other Total Recall, because unfortunately I watched that. I have seen that one and I hated it.
I thought it was all right, but I thought it was a waste of like, well, it's something that we'll be talking about later, where you just take a name that you have the rights to and staple it into something else that could have been its own thing.
Mhm.
But no, like in the remake, I actually kind of liked. I know it's implausible and stupid, but I kind of liked the idea of the shaft that went through the earth
Yeah.
with the train. Like that was a neat. That was just neat visually.
Yeah, yeah, I will say visually that movie was really good. Like the visuals were amazing, but the rest of it was eh.
Yeah, especially if you compare it to the original.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, it's on on HBO Max.
Now, do you prescribe to, or do you just prescribe? Do you subscribe to the theory that the entire movie just took place in his head as the vacation, or do you think that all actually happened?
I kind of lean towards it being a dream or being in his head because there's some like leaps in logic that happen, and some stuff that kind of goes I don't know. So yeah, part of me thinks it was a dream.
Yeah, see, now this is kind of a bias that I have, that one of your boy Zach's comments really crystallized, just the idea that a movie that ends with "and it was all a dream" is just the biggest
Yeah.
waste of time you could possibly do.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that for the most part, unless you kind of like put breadcrumbs in it throughout the
Mhm.
movie that there's something else going on. But but I mean, they kind of, I mean, I'll give Verhoeven credit that he left it ambiguous
Mhm.
to leave it up to the viewer's interpretation as to whether or not it was actually happening.
Right. It is all possible that it is just his vacation. That he wakes up, it's like, wait, what?
Yeah, yeah,
But it felt so real. Yes, that's the idea of the service.
yes, yeah.
Speaking of, I don't have a transition.
Uh,
Sorry.
that's all right.
My thing of the week, I resisted Spook all through Spooktober, but I did catch the. I ended up catching all of the Fox animated Halloween specials on Hulu over the course of a few days. And I might say, wait, DB, why would you subject yourself to some of those? Well, I usually watch Bob's Burgers. This year's wasn't too strong as a Halloween special. It kind of
Mhm.
had oh, it's we're here on this farm where they pretend it's like pagan Britain in the in 100 BC, and oh, is Louise on her school field trip there going to get sacrificed by the crazy locals in full sight of everyone? Like, gee, I wonder if it's a comedic misunderstanding. Oh, sorry guys, spoilers. I guess I didn't, you didn't know until then that they were going to sacrifice one of their five characters in the 13th season.
Yeah.
Although, although, if I think her like name is like what Louise Shaw or something like that, something
Mhm.
Shaw. If she played hardball towards mid-season, that would be a hell of a way to write her off the show, which might actually fit some of the original spirit. Because up until wiser heads prevailed on Bob's Burgers, it was going to turn out that the Belchers were feeding, or their burgers were made of people.
I think I remember hearing about that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of those. Oh yeah, no, that would be an awful idea.
Yeah.
Uh, but after that one kind of let me down, and Treehouse of Horror 34 was really good. I said, okay, I'll try out the other two just for completion, and I'll just touch on those briefly. The Great North is the stuff from Bob's Burgers that fell on the floor and congealed, and they pretend it's a burger.
Ugh.
It's basically, what if Bob's Burgers, but without all of the charm, wit, or comedic performances? Because like, if you just wrote out a lot of the jokes in Bob's Burgers, they wouldn't be particularly funny. But the way that the actors convey them often elevates it.
Uh, yeah.
But none of that here. No, I
Mm.
don't know how it keeps getting seasons outside of Fox having a thing to plug in. And then Family Guy, I don't know if I hate saying that it was. I might have enjoyed it more than Bob's Burgers just because some of the manatee jokes did land, and it was kind of a commentary on how awful Peter is. But there are also like some really weird. there were some manatee jokes that worked, and some manatee jokes that were just like, okay, weirdly political, and you don't like. Okay, I get it.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
The best joke was this takedown of podcast advertising.
Uh,
That I thought was funny, but it's also like, okay, this has nothing to do with the rest of the episode, as is the nature of the manatee joke.
yeah.
So I have to ultimately give it a well. It's Family Guy. It's probably as good as Family Guy can be in season 20.
Yeah.
But, weirdly enough, Seth MacFarlane still has still has good chemistry with himself as Stewie as Stewie and Brian.
Ryan. Yeah.
Uh, which it sounds weird to say, but he's good at like Bob's Burgers is actually shot with everybody flying down or driving in and doing these performances live in the same room. So a lot of it's often ad-libbed off each other.
Oh, okay.
McFarlane is good at making it seem like that, even though he's voicing half the cast. So I'll give him that.
Yeah. Yeah, the Stewie and Brian centric episodes always cracked me up because it's like, well, it's just Seth MacFarlane having a conversation with himself.
Yeah. Uh, the, and there was a timeline that I kind of wish we had gotten to see where Family Guy didn't get brought back because of the strong DVD sales.
Mm,
And then, but we would have had like this little like cult classic 3-season thing. And then Seth would have gone on to work with other people because he's a great voice actor, great singer. He has good comedic timing. He can be funny at times, but he got he had 3 shows at his peak. That's too much power for any one man.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and who knows? Maybe we would have gotten the Orville a lot sooner.
Yep.
Mm,
But okay, so now we've gotten all the non-Simpson stuff out of the way.
yes.
Let's talk Simpsons. So uh, their Death Note parody, the Death Tome, has been making the rounds around the internet in weeb circles, and that's what everyone cares about. And they actually got Dr. Movie, the anime studio, to do the animation for them,
Mhm.
which I wonder, like, okay, this looks like it's too. This does not look at the Simpsons writers or animators' usual team pretending to do anime. This looks real.
Yeah.
Um, this is probably a strong take, but it's probably the least of the 3 segments
Mm,
because it's just basically Death Note. It's just like, okay, this was
yeah.
Death Note, but Lisa is light. There were
Yeah.
a couple of amusing little jokes, like one of the premises is that Lisa can't kill somebody the same way twice. It's like she starts running low on ideas. So it's like one death is alligator comes out of the sewer and eats somebody, and then you have a couple more. Then the next one is lion jumps out of the sewer or out of the toilet and eats somebody. Um, I actually liked they did a Babadook parody. Though I'm told that if you'd actually ever seen the Babadook, that it's just basically the Babadooks that take some of the fun out of it.
Oh.
But I liked it because it was Marge and Maggie having interactions that you don't usually get to see.
Mm,
Yeah, it's just basic. Yeah,
mm.
how often does Maggie get to do something besides and falling over?
Not very often.
No. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Of course, the one that everyone like. So in the run up, everybody was going nuts over the Death Note.
Yeah.
But what everyone's really going nuts over is the Simpsons Westworld parody, where it's basically it's like it's where it's an amusement park set in the Simpsons, or where it's like there are robot Simpsons running around. It's like every classic episode and moment there is a Simpsons doll or a robot representing them. A friend of mine said that he said I call the big one Bitey at 2 seconds before somebody else in the show did. And he was like, "Wait, that's what they're doing? What is this?" I won't spoil it, but I will say that somebody from Bob's Burgers might have gotten to be in a better Halloween special this year.
Ah.
So yeah, if you only have time for one Simpsons, why would it be anything but Simpsons?
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was a good year. Simpsons seems to have actually been going on a little bit of an upswing lately because I watched
Mm,
a few from season 33 and thought they were enjoyable. It seems to
Oh,
have settled into kind of like a season 2, 3 groove with like a touch
oh,
of the later wackiness.
oh,
There's like
wow.
the plots are kind of not necessarily grounded, but they're more focused on the characters. It feels like,
Hmm,
which is weird, but it's like
yeah,
okay, I don't mind it.
yeah,
Speaking of things we don't mind,
yes,
talking about the box office.
yes.
So, as far as interesting things going on, um, not a lot new. I mean,
No.
Terrifier is still doing well for itself, and that's like a super indie production that keeps adding theaters. So
Yeah,
good,
that
good
was
on
a
it.
yeah, six-figure budget.
So with
Uh,
7 million total gross, I mean, they might break even soon. I don't know, man. It's it's going to come down to the wire.
yeah,
Kudos to everybody who worked on that. It's nice when you see a passion project really just catch on.
yes.
Halloween Ends has just completely eaten it.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. Everybody who wanted to see that movie saw it, and they've they've had it. They don't need to see it again.
And probably a decent number of them who wanted to see it bought a $5 Paramount Plus, or is it Peacock or Paramount?
Peacock. Peacock.
Peacock. I get those two mixed up, and that's part of their fundamental problem. I think is they both start with a P.
Yeah.
Smile is still doing good for itself.
Mhm.
Pray for the Devil's a new one. I don't.
I don't know that one.
Um, I think what we're all really here to talk about is Black Adam,
Yes.
the old Black Adams. So I've talked a little bit about how I'm okay. So cards on the table. I have a bit of a bias against the current DCEU output.
Yeah, I have very mixed feelings about the DCEU. Yeah.
So I'm gonna pick an example here. Is Bullet Train not a okay?
Bullet
Bullet
Train.
Train.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see Bullet Train on the list anymore.
Yeah. They must have
Anyway,
pulled it. Yeah.
well, Bullet Train was #1 at home streaming. So I would say I came away from Bullet Train with a overall positive feeling on it.
Mhm.
I had a few issues with it, but you know what? I had like a couple moments where I was frustrated with it, but at the end I was like, okay, that was an experience. That was fun, and it's probably one of those things where I would enjoy it more on a rewatch because um,
Mhm.
I'm sure you had the same thing when you saw Return of the King the first time, and you go through all the endings. It just like my first time through, it's like, okay, was that the no?
No.
What's going? Okay, is that the ending? No, and it's like I got kind of bored and antsy with it. Second time
Yeah.
around, I basically knew how many endings I was going to get, so I could just sit back and enjoy myself. I think I'd be very similar with Bullet Train,
Yeah. Yeah.
but but Bullet Train was ultimately a financial flop at the box office. So, but because I had a generally positive feeling on it, if I heard anybody say, "Oh yeah, it was a financial success," I'm like, "Well, you're factually wrong, but it doesn't annoy me."
Yeah.
So part of why I'm like, okay, guys, let's calm down about claiming Black Adam is some big triumph
Yeah.
is that bit of personal bias. So it's
Mhm.
on the table. You can call me a Marvel shill all you like, which would be hilarious given our topic today and all of the and our year plus of content.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, yeah. My well, I'll just say my Rolls Royce is in the shop this week. So,
Yeah, come on, Bob, give us that paycheck.
yeah, yeah.
Anyway, so that's all on the table. So let's talk about some actual numbers here. Now, I caught a bit of the Warner Brothers Discovery annual report live stream today, and they
Mhm.
said something that was kind of interesting that Valiant Renegade brought attention to, which was that they're able to use the fact that they have so many different cable and streaming services
Mhm.
to promote their products cheaper than they would otherwise. So from
Mm.
the sounds of it, that sounds like if you were watching House of the Dragon, you probably saw more than a few commercials for Black Adam.
Mhm.
Or if you're on the ad-supported tier of Discovery Plus, then you probably you probably saw some commercials that they could just throw in there for no net cost to themselves.
Mhm. Yeah.
So that probably means that they actually managed to not spend a huge amount to advertise this movie.
Yeah. Yeah, because yeah, that's one of the killers usually with some of these movies is the marketing costs.
Yeah, like Thor was probably super expensive.
Mhm.
Now, let's pull up our third one here, the calculator. Hi, calculator. Hello.
No.
So, Black Adam has still to open up in a few different markets, specifically China. Now, that sounds big, but American movies haven't done too hot there recently. I think the only major release that did do well in China was the Jurassic World.
Ah. Hmm.
And in fact, why speculate wildly?
Yeah, let's take a look.
We can pull up the actual box office. All right,
Okay.
Jurassic World. Oh,
Dominion.
it
Dominion. Yeah.
it just edged over the $1 billion mark
Billion
by less than a million. Good on you.
Yes.
But international
Um,
box office, yeah, China, 157 million of that.
wow.
However, there is a unfortunate consequence to that. Uh,
Oh yeah, because they have a pretty good cut.
yeah, most markets return between like 40 and 50-ish%.
Hmm.
China, you get a quarter for every dollar you make in China.
Eesh.
So that means that they really only brought home 39 million off of China.
Mm,
Mind you, that's more than they made off of Japan, which would be roughly 28 million. But it's okay. So for those who can't see the numbers here, box office for Jurassic World in Fallen Kingdom in China, 157, in Japan, 46.
yeah.
But if we just assume a flat half, yeah, we'll be generous and go 40% for Japan.
And
So for making uh, about more than three times as much, they brought home about twice as much.
yeah, that's yeah.
And that's me being very negative about how much they make off of Japan.
Hmm.
So that isn't necessarily going to save Black Adam either.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
because because Black Adam, I think that needs to do 600 to break even.
right, assuming $100 million advertising budget, which seems to be what everyone's assuming, because
Hmm.
that's like the least you can advertise a movie like that for these days,
Yes.
plus a $200 million shooting budget. So it's
Mm.
now I kind of wish we had the Thursday numbers because a statistic I've heard is that most movies have earned between 40 and 60% of their box office in the first 2 weeks. So if we had
Mm.
today's numbers, that would be, that would give us a full 2 weeks to look at.
Mm.
I forget if it's 2 weeks or 2 weekends. We'll be generous to give Black Adam the 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Yeah.
Um, so if worldwide Black Adam has made, uh, if it has made 40% uh, of its box office, it's going to leg out another 60%.
Mhm.
We are looking at 0.4. We're looking at a gross of somewhere in the ballpark of 640 million, which
Mm.
would be enough to give it a neat little profit, and that's on top of any video on demand streaming revenues from HBO Max they can uh, put into it,
Mhm.
and Blu-rays and DVDs, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Which it's possible. Um, however, 256 million. If it's made, um, if this is 60% of its gross, we're looking at like 426 million, which would be a $180 million loss.
Ooh.
If it's gone halfway, then 512 million, so less than $100 million loss.
Mm. Yeah, that's quite a loss
Yeah.
for a movie like this. Yeah. Oh, hey, Ninja Toe.
Hey, Ninja. Some Archie Sonic dubs.
Mm.
Uh,
Hmm.
so anyhow, financially, the movie is not necessarily on the best track.
Uh-huh.
However, I'm going since I'm coming at it from that negative perspective. Allow me to make the case for, even if it doesn't technically make money, why Black Adam is actually something of a success on its own already.
Okay.
Which sounds weird when I just said I get annoyed by that, but it's like I'm qualifying it.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So first off, this movie was, I believe, already in the can when current management took over.
Yes. I think so. Yeah.
So basically, you've been handed something. It'd be like if your, I don't know, if your dumb cousin who never figured out business sold you his, if someone sold you his, what do you call it, his convenience store, and you found out that he had bought 500 cases of Mountain Dew, or of Diet Mountain Dew, a limited flavor Mountain Dew that was going to expire next month. Now, I'm not saying that Black Adam is that bad, but it's more like you have this thing that you have no control over, and you probably aren't going to be able to sell out in time.
Yeah.
We'll say it's, I don't know, crab juice flavored.
Ooh.
Nah. So you're going to have to try and sell that as quick as possible.
Mm.
A near miss on it would actually not be a bad outcome at all.
Mm.
For something that came in, you had little control over it. It sounds like they cut out some, for lack of a better word, woke stuff. Like people were noticing, there's some bits here where it feels like there should be, some more commentary on colonialism or whatever. But
Mm.
a few scenes kind of jump around from what I've heard. It's like,
Huh.
oh, did they make some hard cuts to try to bring the length down and make it more of a crowd pleaser?
Yeah. Maybe.
So I thought that was interesting when I heard that. Like people, I still haven't seen the movie, so just
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just looking at it from a pure financial perspective. Where I'm not looking at a pure financial perspective. I'm looking at it from a moral victory perspective now.
Uh-huh.
So basically, you've been handed this movie that you've already had to spend a whole bunch of money on before you even get to touch it.
Yes.
Um, it's in a universe that I would say that the last few outings that were explicitly DCEU.
Uh-huh.
Actually, let's see, the last outings that were specifically DCEU were Snyder Cut and Harley Quinn and Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
So Snyder Cut, I've heard reports that it cost 70 million to make, made 20 million in Blu-ray and digital,
Mm.
and since HBO Max is net unprofitable, the fact that most people did not finish it. I think like 30% of people finished it, according to statistics I've heard Midnight's Edge throw around.
Oh.
Not not a huge not a huge not a huge victory.
Yeah.
Harley Quinn, people pretend that COVID killed that one. That was already a bomb before that happened.
Yeah. Yeah. A little blue hedgehog killed that
Yes.
movie.
Then the Suicide Squad, uh, huge box office bomb. You have to give it some credit because it came out before Spider-Man convinced people that it was okay to go to the movies again.
Mm.
But still, it seems like most circles seem to like it. Um, but it's an R-rated superhero movie that it was unclear if it was reboot, remake, or whatever.
Uh-huh.
So this will probably make more money in just in terms of raw box office than any of those. In fact, it probably already. Well, why speculate wildly? So
Yeah, let's see.
that's our catchphrase today. Why speculate wildly?
Yes.
Harley Quinn. Okay.
Oh, ouch.
Worldwide gross 201 million for Harley Quinn. Yeah, so it's already beaten that. I wonder how
Hmm.
much that movie actually cost to make. We'll find out in a moment. And then if we do
Suicide Squad.
Suicide. Uh, okay, the Suicide Squad did better overall than I thought it did. 100, so
Mm,
167 million worldwide on a budget of 185 million. Oof.
ugh.
And
Harley
82
Quinn
million
was.
for Harley Quinn. So that's
Well,
hmm, so that had a restrained budget. Okay.
yeah, mm,
Good on them for knowing their lane.
yeah, yeah.
Actually sold pretty well in DVD and Blu-ray. Probably because a lot of people during 2020 times said, "Oh, I can't go anywhere. Sure, I'll buy a movie."
Yeah.
I didn't get to see this one.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
Oh, hey, D Rhino.
we are we are roughly halfway through, or it's like if it can double its money, then it's made more money than those two combined.
Hmm.
So that itself is positive direction.
Yeah.
It's also achieved its objective of it hasn't pissed off anyone off. The people it's pissed off people who wouldn't actually be interested in the movie itself.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
the critics, their big complaint is, oh, it's just a big action movie. How dare people have an action movie without that little lecture or whatever?
Yes, yes. Yes, you need to moralize and be political.
You know, I suspect that if and when I see this movie, I'm going to be seeing it more for Doctor Fate and Hawkman than anything else.
Hmm.
But it's so still. It's like I've said some hurtful things about this movie in the past. I watched our clips, and that has occurred to me,
Yeah, yeah. Mm.
but without actually seeing it, just because of my negative experience coming into it, just my DCEU experience. So I just wanted to make the positive case for it. It can technically lose money and still be a step in the right direction for the studio.
Hmm. Yeah, I think I mean, yeah, like you, I have not seen the movie. I'll probably give it a watch when it drops on HBO Max.
Yeah, and that's the one thing that could kill a long tail on this movie right then and there.
Yeah, yeah, because it drops in December like 5th or something like that.
Yep, the fifth.
Yeah, so
You've got a little bit over a month to really make your money. So
um,
Godspeed.
yes,
Now,
yeah, yeah. It didn't work out too well for Thor.
yeah, no.
Yeah.
Um, which, to be fair, it did have a smaller second week drop than Thor. 60% or 59% when a lot of superhero movies are doing like near 70% or more.
Hmm.
That's like a decent hold. It just wasn't all that high of a number to start with.
Yeah.
Like, short of some real shocks to the system, I suspect that Black Panther is going to gross more in the U.S. in its first 2 weeks than
Oh yeah.
its first weekend than this did in its 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
Although interestingly enough, the international box office is growing faster than the domestic. When its first weekend, the domestic was bigger. So maybe The Rock's international appeal is going to kick in now.
Yeah. Yeah. That could very well happen. Which it's is there a specific country where Dwayne Johnson is more liked than others that you know of? You know, kind of like David Hasselhoff and Germany.
um, well, if you look at the movie so far, UK is the biggest market. I don't think it's come out in Japan yet.
Mm,
Mexico is 10 million in Mexico. Brazil, France,
mm,
Australia, South Korea.
yeah.
Yeah, like it's like it's doing modest numbers. It just might be that it was too expensive.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I'm assuming The Rock's salary was probably was a good chunk of that 200 million.
Yeah, I'd be really curious to know what he got off of it.
Yeah, or if or if he if well, of course if he's getting anything on the back end, yeah, he probably definitely wants this movie to be profitable.
Yes, because man, Hollywood accounting can be schemy or can be slimy enough without your movie actually being unprofitable.
Yeah, exactly.
Like nobody gets gross points anymore.
Yeah.
You have to hope that you're profitable
Yeah.
and that they don't play chicanery to pretend the movie wasn't profitable.
Yes, like Bohemian Rhapsody.
That was just egregious. $800 million worldwide on a 50 million budget. Now, oh, sorry.
Yeah, yeah, no, well, the movie didn't make any money. What?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We had all the money in a big bag behind the couch, and then Phil flicked a doobie on it, and it just went up. And
Yeah.
uh, uh, yeah, is this the real life? No, it's just tragedy. But yeah. So again, like on the one hand, I get kind of annoyed personally because it's like people are trying to claim it made money. It's like no, it's factually wrong, but it doesn't necessarily have to achieve its goals.
Yeah.
Just like if you only sell half of those crates of Diet Crab Juice Mountain Dew that your financially illiterate cousin bought, you're ahead of having to throw all of them out,
Yes.
even if you had to discount it. That
Indeed.
was a weird analogy, but I think I stuck the landing on
Yeah, yeah.
it.
Yeah, no, it worked. It worked.
Diet Crab Juice Mountain Dew coming summer of 2024.
Ugh.
All right, ready to move on to the next thing?
Yes, yes, let's move on.
Speaking of things that don't seem like they're going to be crowd pleasers.
Ugh.
So, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. Um,
Mm,
so it's the best description I've heard of it is it's a movie starring the extras from the last movie
mm,
because of unfortunate circumstances. But what seems
yeah.
to have really been making the rounds is everybody complaining about Namor, or excuse me, Namor.
Namor. Yes. Yeah, then and yeah, the retconning of his origins, well, specifically in the origins of his name. From I watched in full disclosure, I don't know anything about Namor. Um, but from the Midnight's Edge stream that I watched, apparently in the comic books, his name meant Avenger of the Sun, or Sun Avenger, or something like that, something along those lines.
So let's take a step back.
Okay,
Namor has actually Stan Lee always pronounced it Namor, and he was
Namor.
probably around to talk with the creator at the time. So
Hmm.
I'll go with Namor. So Namor, he was actually the first superhero. Oh, hey,
All right.
Wrestling Aces.
Hey, it's good to see you.
Um, anyway, Namor was actually what at the time I believe was Timely Comics' first, is either, I think it was Timely Comics, their first superhero,
Mm,
because they said, "Oh, this Superman guy is making some money." I forget if Batman would have come out yet, but they said, okay,
mhm.
well, what do we got that's kind of like a Superman? And somebody came up with, oh, well, he's the king, the prince of Atlantis, or the king of Atlantis, and he comes to the surface world, and he has wings on his feet so he can fly. And what's his personality like? He's kind of an enormous dick. Yeah, no, he is the oldest hero in the Marvel universe, at least in terms of creation.
Yeah.
Like he predates the Human Torch, like the android Human Torch and Captain America.
Oh wow. Yeah,
Uh,
and yeah, Ninja Terrier, Namor, King of Atlantis, tries to get Sue Richards from her husband, one of the oldest heroes. Yeah.
it's like, and there's a lot to Namor. Like he was from day one. You could argue that he was like he was almost like a Black Adam style anti-hero.
Mhm.
One of his first major adventures, or one of the big things that people remember, was that time that he had a war with the android Human Torch and flooded New York in the 40s.
Wow.
I forget why he was pissed off at the Human Torch in the human world, because I haven't read the comic. I've just seen pages from it in this old History of Marvel comic I had.
Hmm.
But damn.
Yeah.
And then when he came back in the 60s, he got like the Human Torch, like the Johnny Storm Human Torch, found him as a homeless man wandering around New York because he'd been away from the ocean too long, so his mind had gone. So
Ah.
Human Torch picks him up, dumps him in the ocean once he realizes he's Namor, and Namor goes home to Atlantis and finds out it had been destroyed by nuclear testing.
Mm.
He was not happy, so that's where
Yeah.
his interactions with the Fantastic Four began.
Ah. Ah.
And ever since then, yeah, exactly. Yeah, he made another pass at New York 20 years after the first one. He nearly destroyed New York in his return issue because Atlantis got destroyed.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, they retconned that because I think they eventually decided that, yeah, it would be more fun to have Atlantis around still.
Hmm.
But ever since then, he's never been like a mainstay character, but I would call him one of those major flavor characters that the Marvel Universe, it's fun when he shows up. So it's like, I don't, a lot of people don't want to read a comic book about Doctor Strange or like Doctor Strange solely, or Nick Fury, but they're characters that when they show up, it's a cool deal.
Mm. Okay.
So, like one of those seasoning characters that doesn't necessarily need their own focus all the time, but they've
Mm.
flirted with giving him his own comic books over time.
Okay. And yeah, and so now now he's got history with Black Panther.
Yeah, which I think is vaguely based on a comic from, I want to say, the Christopher Priest era, or maybe the one of the later runs where Atlantis and Wakanda had a war.
Mm.
Okay, Holy Ninja has some more Namor dirt that I don't.
Yeah. Let's see. He financed a film just to get rid of Mr. Fantastic, Human Torch, and the Thing, so that he can, you guess it, try to make Sue Storm his woman.
to, to be fair, he does run around in a green speedo.
Yeah. And I think that was his second encounter with the Fantastic Four.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just laughing now because like everything Namor does sounds ridiculous and over the top.
Yeah.
In that fun comic booky way that we often don't get anymore.
Well, yeah. Well. Who wouldn't want to make a movie to get with Sue Storm or Sue Richards or
Yeah, whatever she was at the time.
Yes.
But so that's kind of the fun asshole Namor that we all know and love.
Okay.
Um, so a lot of people have been objecting to a lot of people have been objecting to this particular rendition of Namor because it is kind of, it's weird. It's like it's surface level. Some of the elements are there. He still has the green speedo. He has the
Mm,
wings on his ankles, which kind of look really stupid in live action.
mm,
Unfortunately,
mm.
it's comic book accurate, but that's one situation where they might have been better off coming up with an alternative way to make him fly.
Yeah.
But he just like the problem I have is that they've, how to put it, how to put it. So Namor clearly has a history of being wronged by the surface world, right?
Mhm.
That so that if they're doing this thing where they're having Namor here, God, I even have it pronounced wrong.
Yeah.
If they have Namor here, um, they have him have a history with Spanish colonialists,
Mhm.
and they've like integrated him into some like Aztec and Olmec myths, from what I've heard, given
Mhm.
him a name from there, just made up an underwater his indigenous city.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too, the Midnight's Edge stream I was talking about, uh, with giving him, the Aztec or Olmec or maybe it might have been Mayan too. I can't remember. But giving him those origins and then having him like be like a Spanish, name. It's like the Aztecs and the Mayans, and they did not speak Spanish. Quite the opposite. Ninjato, are they trying to introduce the conflict between Atlantis and Wakanda?
Okay, so that was a later thing that I was thinking. Okay.
Okay, which is only a thing because of Avengers versus X-Men, and as I say, Atlantis should have been more Egyptian.
See, I feel differently. I feel like Atlantis, you shouldn't have been able to pin down a culture.
Yeah, Atlantis can be either for me, like it's usually Greek
Hmm.
or possibly Irish.
Right? I mean, supposedly, if Atlantis would have existed, it probably was out in like the Azores or whatever.
Hmm.
So
But
it could have really been anything.
yeah. I mean, it's yeah. Yeah. You can. Well, that's the beauty of Atlanta. I think the beauty with Atlantis is it can be anything. It can be any culture, really.
And for that matter, if they'd wanted to just keep it be Atlantis and cast this guy, I would have had less issue. But they've just completely excised it.
Yeah. Well, part of me wonder. I wonder if they did that because of the DCEU with Aquaman.
I have heard that they probably wanted to make some changes to get away from the DCEU's only billion-dollar movie thus far.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's like there's a certain. So I was thinking about it's like okay, is it the? It's weird. This isn't like a race swap. Like if they'd had this actor
Mhm.
and not had the ridiculous amount of jewelry here. Like I'm sorry, he does like he
Yeah.
looks okay from the waist down as far as a Namor goes, but like he has way too much busyness going on.
Yeah. Little. Yeah. Yeah. That's it's like a Mr. T starter kit.
Yes. Man, can you imagine if they'd gotten Mr. T to be him? Imperious Rex, foo. Oh, that's right. Yeah, Namor was like explicitly like Imperious Rex was like his catchphrase, which I think is it's Latin.
Yeah. Namor isn't hot enough to make Wakanda Forever $1 billion.
Not with this actor. Like he's,
No. No.
but like like this feels like that cultural appropriation thing people are always talking about.
Hmm.
It makes it like it feels like if for the Black Panther they had gone and said, okay, so in the mountains of Japan there is this isolated kingdom where they're protected by a guy who takes the essence of a melanistic tiger, the Black Panther, if you will, and he's the
Ah.
greatest samurai of them all.
Ah.
Oh,
Yeah.
about as fitting.
Hmm. Yeah. Hmm.
Or like if they decided to make Latveria when they bring in Doctor Doom, eventually, if they decided like, oh, Latveria is a Middle Eastern kingdom.
Ooh.
Like you lose the flavor that is the character.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, we've talked a little bit about it, like how we don't necessarily have a problem with the race swap itself. It's like it's how big of a difference is it to the character.
Hmm.
Like I
Yeah.
would say, oh sorry, go ahead.
No. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Like I was thinking about what are some race swaps that don't matter, like Perry White in Man of Steel
Hmm.
makes no difference. I think it's
Yeah.
Lawrence Fishburne playing him. He does a good job.
Yeah. He actually the way he dressed and everything was a tribute to Ed Bradley from 60 Minutes.
Hmm.
But yeah,
Yeah,
but yeah, that yeah, he was good in that one. Yeah.
uh, and but you brought up another good example of kind of taking the name and just stamping it on a character from also from the DCEU
Hmm.
when we were talking about it.
Uh, what Aquaman?
Jimmy Olsen.
Oh, Oh, right. Jimmy Olsen. Yeah. Yeah. Jimmy Olsen with in Supergirl. Yeah, they just. Yeah, that's it's yeah, that's not an issue, but I mean, they completely changed that character on that TV show. I mean, he went from kind of the nerdy kid to this, oh, I'm this buff dude, and
Like, oh, and I'm Supergirl's boss,
yeah, 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 like,
which that yeah, it's like it would have been just as weird if they'd had a redheaded guy being that character.
hmm
It's just even more visually different because like that part of it with comic book characters in particular is that the visual aspect of them is such a big piece of it.
yeah, yeah, and it's we've seen good casting of superheroes, and we've seen bad casting of superheroes,
Hmm.
and it's in a lot of the times, and with the bad casting, yeah, it's like, oh, they don't look anything like them, they don't sound anything like that character. It's like, yeah, it's,
Why didn't you just make up something?
yeah, exactly.
And I almost thought to myself, okay, well, maybe I'm just being unfair here. Maybe like Namor is a concept that you can't really translate to live action and have it look good.
hmm
And then I found this thing from 2000 or 2019, which is a fake, like one of those clickbait YouTube videos, or Namor introduced in Marvel
yeah,
Endgame? Question
yeah,
mark? Question mark? Question mark? And their bad, obvious Photoshop here made me realize, okay, no, Namor has a nice, clean design with his like cool little vest here.
yeah,
You could have totally done that.
yeah, and I think they used the actor looks familiar. um where have I seen him before?
I don't
uh
know.
yeah, but yeah, he looks familiar. But yeah, yeah, like, he probably would have been good as Namor. I think it was, what am
I know there's some
I,
actor that I've seen making the rounds where, oh my God, he's got the arched eyebrows, he's got kind of like the flat head, he's got this
mhm.
that princely scowl down.
Yeah, yeah, but and yeah, and then they go with the other guy, and it's like, okay.
Yeah, you just yeah, and it sounds like it's just it almost sounds like it's there to scold a section of the audience. So it's just okay, fine. I
hmm
wasn't really planning on going anyway because you don't have the character that might have brought me in. So
Yeah,
and you have Riri Williams.
yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. I watched that clip with Riri Williams. It's like,
I didn't.
oh,
I watched this guy struggling to just struggling to act as Namor and sound like it's more than like a Disney Plus show.
oh, jeez.
Although to be fair, the other actors weren't really selling their kind of cookie cutter lines either.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Ninja Toe, number one of superhero design. Cleanliness is next to godliness.
Yep.
hmm
Uh,
Yeah.
the- yeah, and man, this movie is going to be. I fully predict that it'll make more money than Black Adam has in its first 2 weekends in its first weekend, but
hmm
it is going to fall off a cliff when people realize what it is.
Yeah. 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 It's not going to do nearly as well as the first one.
No, it has that's actually part of why Black Adam may have more of a chance than people might give it credit for because okay, on the weekend of the 11th, of course Black Panther is going to be first place. What else is there for it to be in first place?
I can't think of anything else coming out. Yeah.
Right, nothing else is coming out. It's a Marvel movie that like it's going to be number one. That's not
Mhm.
in question.
Yeah.
It's just how much are people going to actually come and try to see it? And I've told that person every week that I do this at this time. Uh, oh well. Anyway,
Yeah.
okay, so that I'm just kind of really disappointed at Namor because
Uh-huh.
or Namor because it's like it's like She-Hulk where I didn't quite realize how much I was going to be irritated by it until we started talking about it because it means like, oh, we're
Yeah.
not gonna it's gonna be different now. Great.
Yeah. Well, and Okay, this just hit me. Like if they did that with the She-Hulk and they're doing this with Namor, what are they going to do with X-Men?
Oh, I've been hearing bad rumors, but I didn't, I've avoided them just to shield myself from trauma, just because
Yeah.
it already sounds like we're going to get Martin Luther King-ish, and Malcolm X, Professor X, and
Oh,
Magneto.
man. Oh, jeez.
So, we'll see.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, it means basically, when you're bringing people from a visual medium, it's different than if it was a novel or something or a live action
Mm,
thing. Like,
yeah.
okay, we'll take Columbo. If you had, I can't think of the name of an actor, but if you had a black or Latino or Asian actor come in to play Columbo, not much would change.
No.
Because as long as you have an actor who can communicate in that, like, do that sort of folksy two-level thing that Peter Falk was so good at,
Hmm.
where it's like comes off as an idiot, but also like people underestimate. In fact, you could argue that with implicit racism being a thing, that a black Columbo might actually be able to pull that off better for some people.
Yeah. Yeah. That's actually not a bad idea.
Okay, black Columbo. If it happens next year, I want my check.
Yes.
But like it's not like there's nothing of that like specifically tying Columbo to that culture.
Mhm.
But when you, and it's also it's like it's the role played by the actor. When you have thousands of comics with drawings of a character, I'm sorry if I expect the character that you're making to look like that drawing.
Yeah. 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 And let's see if I have easy access to it.
So meanwhile, Holy Ninja says, "What are they doing with X-Men? Make the one-third part of X-Men that focus on the allegory and make it the whole thing. People are totally not tired of it with every X-Men film doing the same thing."
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Uh, uh, what I was trying to do here before I boomered it up here. No, not that one. Okay. So if we're casting this lady here, I would expect them to find somebody who looks as close to that as possible.
Yeah, like maybe some variants on the hair color, maybe
Yeah,
some,
yeah.
although that can be fixed with a wig, but
Or hair dye. Yeah.
yeah. Uh, Meanwhile, like my books, like while I do have art of most of my characters, I've thought through it, and there are a couple of characters like, okay, if we got Netflix casting on Rose and she was like Indian or black or something, would it necessarily be the biggest crime in the world? No, not really.
Uh,
Rose is like the character I think you could race bend the easiest.
hmm.
There's some minor cast members that you could do that with too, but it's like I'd kind of like it to look like I wrote it, but
Yeah, yeah.
it's less of a deal with the book because everybody just imagines what they want anyway.
True. Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's uh, I just find I just found hearing about this and watching the clip and it's like my realization with She-Hulk, finding out about it, is that we're never going to get a proper Planet Hulk or World War Hulk thing, and they're
Hmm.
kind of rubbing it in our faces. Now we're never going to get a comic book accurate live action anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
The same kind of way we're never going to get the World War II style comic book accurate Nick Fury. That doesn't mean that Samuel L. Jackson Nick Fury is bad per se. Just different.
Yeah. Well, who knows? Maybe, multiverse.
Yeah, that's the get out of jail card for any sort of bad take now.
Yes, yes. Multiverse.
I think we've belabored this enough.
Yeah, yeah, I think so too.
Speaking of bad takes,
Hmm. Yes. This news dropped the day after last week's stream. We talked about last week with Henry Cavill going back to play Superman again.
mhm,
Uh, and then not long after that, we found out that that he was leaving The Witcher, the Netflix Witcher series, after the third season, and he's taking over the role of Geralt is going to be the lesser Hemsworth brother. But and so a lot of people, thought that when it was announced that he wasn't going back to The Witcher, they thought, oh well, he's leaving The Witcher because he's playing Superman again. There's a
Mhm.
scheduling conflict there.
Right.
Yeah, and but apparently that wasn't the case. And a big reason why he's actually leaving the show is because the people working on it are not being faithful to the original source material, i.e., the books and the video games.
Yeah. So X-Men 97 head writer Bo DeMeo recalls some writers on Netflix's The Witcher actively mocked the source materials, says this mindset is a recipe for disaster and bad morale.
Hmm. Yeah, and apparently I think Cavill actually pushed back on some of that, pushed back a little bit on that with some of the stuff they were doing with Geralt. And and again, full disclosure, I haven't read the Witcher books. I haven't played any of the games. So I don't really know anything about the lore of that franchise. I did watch. Let me just check this real quick. Okay, I did watch the first season of Witcher. I liked Cavill, but I thought the season as a whole was very meh. Didn't really like it very much, and then I got like 2 episodes into season 2 and gave up.
It kind of sounds like they take one of the other characters and make her the main, from what I've heard, but I get that
Yeah.
accusation a lot when it turns out not to necessarily be true.
No, that's pretty true. Yeah,
Okay,
Yennefer.
that's it.
Yeah, and yeah, apparently what they did with that character was not at all like how she is in the source material. Um,
Of course.
yeah, um, and and apparently Cavill only took the role of Geralt on the condition that they would be faithful to the source material.
Mm,
Because and for those of you who most of you probably know this about him, he's a big nerd. He's a big
yeah.
geek. Yeah,
I think I heard that he was like in the middle of a big World of Warcraft session when he got cast as Superman, so he missed the
yeah.
call.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And yeah, and he's a big Warhammer 40K guy. He played the Witcher games, so he's familiar with the Witcher. He's familiar with the character of Geralt, and it sounds like he's more familiar with it than the people working on the show.
Or they're familiar with it, and that is bred contempt.
Yes, yes, and from and if the obviously that's if that's the case with The Witcher, it explains why the show isn't very good.
Yeah, I noticed that there were a lot of like memes about, give a coin to your Witcher and stuff during the first season,
Hmm.
and then that has completely died down. There isn't even people complaining about it like there were in season two.
Yeah, the only things the only things coming out of season 1 that were like and yeah like they were good were like you were saying the toss a coin for your Witcher, and then of course seeing Henry Cavill in a bathtub.
Which, that's some people's thing, not mine, but
That's yeah,
each their
yeah,
own.
yeah. It's not mine either, but it gets the ladies interested.
Yep.
Yeah. Um, but um, but yeah, it's it's kind of a just emblematic of everything, and it kind of ties in with what we were just talking about before with Namor.
Hmm.
You're taking something that is well known, well established, and you're just completely tossing that out the window and doing something that isn't going to work, and it's only going to actually and will alienate the people that like this property in the first place.
Hmm. Right. Which Like, say what you will about Black Adam. From everything I've heard, it does not do that.
Mhm.
I've heard people say that they love this take on Doctor Fate,
Mm.
well, among other things. Also, this gives me actually some real hope for that X-Men '97 show, just because if
Yeah.
that's the attitude of the head writer, then that's a good sign.
Yeah.
I think I
Yeah.
heard that they actively said, if you weren't a fan of this show, sorry.
Yeah. 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 I'm cautiously optimistic now.
Yes, it's
Mm.
which is rare for a Disney property.
Yes. But yeah, I mean, good on Cavill for standing up for that. Standing up for the the Witcher source material, and obviously there was some creative differences, as they like to say in Hollywood, and he just said, okay, well, I'm out.
Screw you guys, I have Superman money.
Yeah, exactly. uh, but I'm trying to. Well, I was gonna say something else about this. Can't remember.
It'll be nice
Yeah.
to actually have a Superman movie.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And then yeah, an actual Superman. Not
Yes.
the Zack Snyder Superman.
Not the Man of Steel.
Yes. But yeah. Yeah. Henry Cavill's a good guy, I think.
Right. He he seems like he actually cares, which is in short
Mhm.
supply.
Yeah. Yes. Especially in the entertainment world these days.
I wonder if that's part of what's been going on with Marvel is that it's is that it seems like there was a stage where like, okay, it's like haha superhero movies, what a joke, and then during that phase 2, 3 ramp up to end games, like, oh, this is a big deal to be in a Marvel thing. Let's
Mm.
I'm going to go in there and do my best on it. And now we're kind of at a phase where it's like everyone's like, paycheck, whatever. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm Shang Chi. What of it?
Yeah. Yeah. It certainly has that feeling to it. Yeah. It's-
Which it's the writers who would rather be writing their own thing and are stuck on franchise stuff where they feel they need to be creative and make things their own. So I think that's a big chunk of it too.
Yeah, I think I think yeah, I think you make a good point there. Yeah, because they want to work on yeah, like you said, their own stuff, and they're stuck working on something that they probably have zero knowledge of, and or it's maybe they have knowledge of it and they're writing their really bad fan fiction.
Yeah, I feel like that's the problem with a lot of American comics is that you have people who'd really love to be writing slice of life manga. Like that like that's what they really really want to do because they love just taking like they would love to write something like Dragon Maid but with all the male gaze stuff removed. It's like, oh, we're gonna have wacky characters, and oh, wouldn't it be funny if a superhero had to deal with laundry day like the rest of us? And Uh, it's like I'm paying for an issue of Action Comics. There is no action in this Action Comics.
Yeah. This blatant false advertising.
Yeah. Mr. Simpson, this might be the most flagrant case of false advertising since my suit against the Neverending Story.
Sorry. Uh,
All right, I think that's a good
uh,
note to end on.
yes.
Well, I wasn't expecting the show to go quite so long, but it was a good time. Thanks everyone who commented and joined in.
Yes, yes. Yeah, thank you all very much for tuning in. We really appreciate it. Uh, give us give it a like, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit that little bell for notifications, because starting a couple of weeks ago, we're dividing the stream into segments, into
Yep.
individual videos. So
So if you don't want to watch the whole thing, you can wait for the bits.
yes. Uh, but yeah, thanks again, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Yep, because next week I'm traveling for business, and Daniel has a comic book to launch.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah. So we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Good night, everybody.
Good night.